Ho, 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 Cindy. Merry Christmas. It's your Secret Santa from the internet world of Board Game Geek. I wanted to take an opportunity to introduce myself and kind of look over your profile. I have another computer, I have your profile up, and the first thing I have to say is, wow, have you been busy on Board Game Geek? I haven't counted all the micro badges you've created, but wow, it's an impressive list, and thank you for contributing to the health of the website, and thank you for creating the 2007 Secret Santa micro badge and participating in the Secret Santa again this year. I know Tom Vassell takes a lot of pride in this Secret Santa, and I've always had a good time doing it, and I hope you have a good time with your target as well. But I wanted to kind of go through some of the games that I see you own, and of course you own almost 500 games, so this could be a pretty long video. The one thing that kind of surprised me is you didn't rate any of them. So I'm going to go through, I guess, alphabetically and tell you, some of the games that I like and some of the games that I've played. I noticed that you're an active math trader, and you try to move some of these games around. I don't know if that means that you don't necessarily like them, or if you just want to try new games. But I do notice with 500 games that you do have quite a collection. Going through, we'll kind of get through this right now. In the numbers, I've played 1960, Making of the President. It's one of Mrs. Claus's favorite games. She and I have played a couple times since I've bought it. I've also found it online at Game Table. I've been able to play with my dad. I don't know if that's another Mr. Claus, but my dad and I have enjoyed that as well. I learned that game before I learned Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle is one of my dad's favorite games, and 1960 was a good intro to the system for me. Into the A's we go. And I've heard of some of these games. Anno 1503, Apples to Apples I've played. That's a pretty popular game. Aquaretto I've heard of. Ark of the Covenant I've heard of. It's in the Carcassonne style, I believe. As we hit into the B's, going through obviously Battleship and a lot of the, I call them Target games or Walmart games, Kmart games. I noticed you had a lot of those listed on your profile. I've obviously played all of those. Big Boggle. I'm not good with words. I'm good with toys and elves. Bingo, I thought was interesting that you labeled as owned, and I found it interesting that the year next to it, the published year, was 1530. Wow, that's almost as old as Santa. Blockus. I've played Blockus before. That was actually a Christmas present for me last year, and Mrs. Claus and I really enjoyed that game. I think it's a neat style game. I've played Bootleggers before. Don't really get it. I like the theme of it. We didn't really hit for us. We didn't really quite get the game. As we go along here, out of the B's into the C's, Can't Stop. You rate a 10. That must be your favorite game. Good for you. I haven't played it. I don't know anything about it other than you think it's good. So maybe I'll give it a try, because what I've noticed, a lot of the games you own, I've not a lot of them, some of them I've played. Carcassonne coming up here. A lot of different Carcassonne games. The Castle, Discovery, they're Hunters and Gatherers, different than the base game. Inns and Cathedrals being the only expansion that I see. I have a lot of the Carcassonnes. I think my favorite expansion is the Builder and Trader. I'm not sure what it's called offhand, but the one with the little, makes it an economic game, kind of, I guess. Into the Caelus. I just recently tried Caelus. Wow, it's tough if you play with someone who knows what they're doing. I played with Mr. Claus, my dad, and we kind of stumbled our way through it. It's one of those games that it's fun, it really is, but it does definitely take some practice to get good at. Checkers, chess, Chinese checkers, Clue, all games I've played. Clue the card game, that looked interesting. I kind of checked that out. I hadn't heard of it before. And I know growing up as a little Claus, Clue is one of my favorite games, and me and my sister used to play it a lot. And Clue the card game might be something that I look at for my little Claus, who is just turning 1. So, a couple years for him on a lot of these games. Connect 4, obviously, I've played. Cranium was a game I used in college. We had to do a educational presentation. We used a board game for that. Cranium was the one we picked. Crazy Eights, Cribbage, obviously games I've heard of. Cuba, I've played a couple times. I really think it's a neat game in that it feels like you're playing a lot of different games. And the artwork in it is remarkable. It really is. You have to excuse me, Santa's a little sick as well. I see my white beard is gone because I'm sick. Dominion is a game, obviously, if you're anywhere near Board Game Geek, you've heard of Dominion. I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. I have a friend who went to a convention and learned it there, and he said he won his first round. He'd never played it before, so I thought that was pretty good for him. Dominoes, obviously we've all heard of Dominoes. Getting into the E's. Employee of the Month, I think, was something I looked at. That looked kind of interesting to me. Family Business is a fun little quick card game that my dad taught us. It's one of those I'll get you games if you get me. Really like the theme of that as well. It just all fits. Fifth Avenue was a game that Mrs. Claus and I tried. Didn't really work for us. Thought with the whole theme of old school New York and building up things, it would be a little more fun than it was, at least for us. If you guys enjoyed playing it, good for you. That's great. For Sale, another quick card game. Wow, it took me 5 minutes to learn that. And for somebody like me, who takes usually a long time to learn a game, it's a really quick learn. Goa, another game I've heard of. Want to give that a try. Guatemala Cafe, I've tried. That was a pretty good game. Hacienda, I've seen online. Down to the H's. Hoity Toity, Hollywood Blockbuster, 2 really good games. I own those. I'm the Boss, another game I've been interested in for a while. The J's and the K's. Knights, if it's the same Knights that I remember playing, the little dice game, I've played that. That was a really quick game to play. Into more of the L's. This is actually taking a little longer than I thought, going through your entire collection. I'm into the M's now. Mexica is a game that I've played. I've enjoyed that. Not one of Mrs. Claus's favorites, but we play it every now and then. Brains. The only other game you ranked, and it's a 5, so you like that half as much as your favorite game. Into more of the M's. I've heard of Modern Art, obviously Monopoly. Mousetrap, another crazy setup game, if I remember the commercials from my childhood. Into more of the M's. Mystery of the Abbey, I thought was a really fun game. I've enjoyed Clue, and Mystery of the Abbey is like Clue for adults, I think. Notre Dame, one of the games I got strictly because of Board Game Geek. The reviews and the overall, it was hyped up pretty much. Oasis is a game I've played. It was okay. Seemed like a fun game at the time, and the components are built nicely. Going into the piece, Panzer Blitz. That's kind of an interesting game to see in your collection. Maybe that's a game your husband got you into. Doesn't really quite fit with the others, being a big war game. And that takes us to the end of page 1. And being that we're around the 10-minute mark and YouTube only lets you go for 10 minutes, I'm going to cut it off here and kind of pick up in part 2. We'll check out the second half of your board game collection, maybe talk a little bit about your wish list. So click on Volume 2, and we'll talk then.